idea here, if it's done well, is to provide kind of an immense, immersive learning environment where you really feel like you're part of what is going on. In the same way that you would be in a live class with a professor with you. At this point, I'm going to give you a little visual turn over to Mike here and let you kind of see what we're doing and what it looks like.
Okay, so basically, we have kind of two purposes right now at the sales for the video conferencing. The screenshots you see here right now are, we have an Italian class that we run, and two other schools that are nearby to us, Lehigh University and Lafayette College. They have students who are interested in taking Italian, but they don't have enough of interest to really have the overhead for a professor. So what we do is we have professors come to our college at the sales, and this is a shot of the classroom while she's presenting. As you see, she's actually up here at the podium. We have a presentation as a normal class would. But now what she's looking at, unfortunately I reached out, but there are a couple screens in the back of the room that have a split screen image, which is this image here. One side being Lafayette students and the other side being Lehigh. So she's actually able to interact with them, do a two-way conversation, and they can basically have two students at Lehigh in this instance and four at Lafayette. That these students can still take the Italian class that originally would have been dropped just because they didn't have large enough interest to hold the class. So there's kind of ups and downsides to this. Now what we found is with our systems the way they are now, they're working well and we didn't have too many issues, but the biggest complaint has been from professors who try to use this technology with this split screen image that we had no way of actually putting a separate location onto a different monitor and seeing them full screen. So we're actually working on advancing our system to the point of this is actually, we just finished doing this week. We're now increasing the amount of displays. One thing about the professional video conference systems as opposed to web conferencing, it's definitely it's scalable, but you're looking at much bigger dollars and cents now when you need to go from just a single system to kind of multiple setup like this. So we're actually investing a bit of money into this. Now this being that the other shot that I had was our Center Valley campus. This is a remote campus we have in Easton. And we also have another site in Lansdale. And what we started doing is for our evening classes, we have one professor who will instruct students in Center Valley as well as Easton and Lansdale. So we actually have 3 full classrooms of students taught by one professor. So it's kind of two-folded where for the students, it's nice because they can just go to whatever campus is closest to them geographically, and just it's less travel time. They can still be a part of the class. And for the university, now you're looking at, okay, we're taking in income for 3 full classrooms, but we only have to pay one professor to do so. So it's definitely kind of beneficial on both sides of the equation. So what we're looking to do, going back to the setup here, is the students are in the seats here. We saw your presentation on the screen. Now the 2 monitors in the front room here will be for the far side classrooms. One screen will be Lansdale, one will be this is when the professor is in the room and he's speaking to students. He's got to turn around and look at what everyone's doing in the other 2 locations. The back screens here. And going back to what I was talking about with the Italian classes, it's it's not as the hard part about the professional video conferencing is you're kind of the weakest link in the chain is where you're going to be kind of downgraded to for quality. That not everyone's going to have maybe spending the money for all the systems and everything. So when we do connect to Lehigh and Lafayette for this Italian class, we'll still be limited to the split screen unless they are willing to invest the money, which just due to the interest that they have in students, they're probably not going to spend that money. But it's one of those things that kind of a trade-off for us. We're hoping that with the evening classes that this will help at least generate that kind of interest in doing not so much distance as far as across the country, but at least giving students the opportunity to take a class that generally would have been dropped if there weren't enough students in their location specifically. So just to kind of hit a couple of points here. It is one instructional delivery tool that we have, as opposed to the other web conferencing. We do also use Blackboard Collaborate things such as Skype and WebEx, which I mean those work just as well. And we do prefer to stick to a Skype or WebEx if we don't have a technician available, especially for snow days. We don't really have the staff to manage multiple video conferences going on at the same time. Our main vendor is Lifesize, and we do have some Polycom systems that they're pretty much all interoperable. Here now then you get some issues with firmware updates, and one updates firmware that doesn't talk to the other ones so well, but it's kind of one of those fun things with vendors. Again, full two-way multi-point conferencing between locations, and professors, and actually what they do for the evening courses, the professor actually rotates between the 3 campuses each week. They have classes one night a week, and that way the students aren't just feeling like they're just while I was watching the home type of thing. They at least see the professor flesh and blood in their room at least one time every 3 weeks as he rotates through. And again, the goal is to have both the local and the foreign students feel like they're actually immersed with each other, so they can they hear and see the students in the other locations as well as the professor, and they just feel like they're all in a big class rather than just watching something on a video screen. Let's see if there's any points. I won't take too much time. Or I don't want to rush the rest of this time here. So simulcasting classes among our 3 campuses, that's really what we call it. It's been kind of a general term thrown around, but they consider our evening classes a simulcast. And again, with the LeVay Institution, that includes Lafayette and Lehigh and Moravian actually would like to be involved in the next semester for this Italian class with only 1 student. So again, another aspect where that student would not have the opportunity to take advanced Italian classes unless either they transferred or dribble went to sales for that class. It also gives us the opportunity to bring in distant special guests. One point I forgot to hit is we have a global economics class that they've actually, this semester, they spoke with the CEO of Chevron as well as someone with the National Testing Laboratory for oil and gas. And just the fact that those people are willing to take their time, and all they have to do is just go on their laptop, go on Skype, and our students will have to ask them questions and do a little short presentation. And it's a nice thing to be able to provide to them. And again, we're looking more at a higher quality of live video rather than the Skype and kind of pixelated video that sometimes everyone's getting accustomed to.
Did you say you're using Skype for distant special guests?
Only if they have a video conference room they can go to, then we'll do a video conference. But we're using Skype with our video conference system to basically have them be able to just use their laptop. So if they want to use Skype on their laptop rather than going to a location that has a professional conference system, we actually have a device that's called an AV Bridge that can actually turn our video conference system into pretty much an oversized webcam. So
Okay. That's why I was wondering how you were integrating.
Yeah,
Skype
and there are other services available. One's called Blue Jeans, but there's bridging services. But a company called Vadio makes a unit called AV Bridge.
Okay.
It's about $2,000 or whatever, but it basically takes the video feed in and turns it into a USB feed in your laptop.
Okay.
And then we just feed that back into the room.
Okay. Does it work pretty well?
Yeah, we haven't had any issues with it. Audio and everything's basically about as clear as you get on a general Skype call. So I've been very happy with it. And again, the challenges that we look at, significant investment. You can go anywhere from a $15,000 to $20,000 system up to over $100,000 for some of the real advanced systems. But as time goes on, and I think with Skype and WebEx becoming bigger players, a lot of companies have produced these smaller just set-top machines that pretty much anyone can buy and just hook up to a TV and allow them to do the professional conferencing. I think they realize that they aren't the only ones out there anymore, and Skype and WebEx and Adobe Connect are all getting better and better, so everyone has to become a player. And again, I already hit the limited scalability. That's about it. And I think what we were talking about doing, just hold questions till the end.
Yeah, just to make sure Russ gets in.
Yeah, any more discussion, Russ, go through.
A quickie.
Yeah.
So those various locations, are those
Yeah.
routed over the internet, or is there a quality of service guarantee, or?
Well, that's the hard part. We actually we have no problems going out over the internet with quality service. Now it all depends on the FAR site as well, having good connectivity. Now we did when we first brought Lafayette into this, they had kind of limited connectivity in the room that they were originally trying to connect in, so they actually ended up either upgrading the network in that room or they moved it to a different location. But they were the original location was kind of on the outskirts of campus, so they kind of moved them further internal to the network, and now we have better connectivity. But yeah, at first we did have that type of issue with pixelation and everything with them, and just kind of one of those things we had to work through.
So those hardware vendors just handle your internal stuff. It's still routed out over
Yeah,
public
still right
internet.
out
There's
over the
no.
internet. So yeah, I mean, if the internet goes down for some reason,
Yeah.
I think we had a train to get a pole and took out our Easton internet not too long ago. So yeah, how the train hit the pole, I'm not sure. But the fact was that we, it's kind of force majeure. It's kind of out of our control. But yeah, we are limited to the bandwidth capabilities.
Well, in relation to that, with your partner institutions, did you have like agreements? But when we video conference to external entities, we often have problems because you have an IT department that's really IT focused versus kind of video conferencing, networking, and they have their firewall locked down. And all kinds of
that's.
problems.
I mean, and IT departments can be IT departments in that respect.
Yeah.
Nothing going on our network, and sometimes we did have to. I've had experience in the past, at least, with actually having the vendors, the manufacturers. They have their reps and their IT engineers that we get them on the phone with our IT engineers, and they'll explain what this is in their language, with servers and everything, and firewalls. We don't understand more the AV side of it, but they were able to talk in their language and said, okay, it's okay, it will export it, and you won't have any issues with anything unwanted coming to the network. Russ?
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Eric. Hi again. I'm Russ. I'm from Wilmington University. I am in the EdTech and Online Learning department, and we primarily leading our multimedia group. So it kind of plays off of one of the things that Mike just mentioned about how you've got IT, you've got networking, and for us we've also got EdTech and Online Learning, and we have to make all those different departments play nicely. So video, live video, video conferencing, video on demand, Kaltura administration, video and Blackboard, all of that falls under, for us, EdTech and Online Learning, but of course we have a close partnership with IT and networking as well. So we are a private nonprofit university. Our main campuses and grad campuses are in Newcastle, but we have lots and lots of locations. Over 19,000 students at 14 locations plus online. Online is actually our biggest campus if you think of online learning as one campus. 37% of our students take at least one online course, and there's a nice little infographic about our student population. The idea being that online is really, really important to us. It's a big part of our student population, it's a big part of our focus, it's a big part of our investment as a university. If any of you was at my earlier presentation where we talked about the infrastructure and investment, and we put into Kaltura, which is our whole online video platform. What I'm going to talk about is a small component that plays into that. So Eric and Mike talked about this big idea of video conferencing, which is synchronous. And I'm talking about a little tiny project that's asynchronous. So I'm going to talk about video on demand. And we wanted to put a tool in the hands of our instructors that allowed them to record their own lecture capture segments without us. Because I'll bet a lot of you guys have the same problem we do, is everybody wants video, and we only have so many people available to shoot it. And it needs to be high quality, it needs to look good, and it needs to sound good. But like the gentleman in the back of the room with the professional camera and tripod and wireless microphones, there's a limited amount of that to go around. And when it's an instructor who just said, well, we've had a snow day, I wanted to record some stuff, I've got some people that are sick, is there a way can you come shoot my class so I can make the lecture available to the people who are out sick? Or we have to say no to that kind of thing, because we have 1,700 adjuncts, we have all these different locations. We just don't have the staff to support it. We don't have that many shooters. We've got 2 full-time people, 1 part-time person, and a handful of freelancers, and that's all we have available. So we have to say no to a lot of things. So we wanted to come up with a project that would put some decent video recording into a do-it-yourself package that instructors can handle. So the question is, what is a swivel and why should I care? And that's what a swivel is, and there is one right here. It's going to be hard for me to pick it up because it wants to follow me around, kind of like a puppy. So this is an iPad mini, 32 gig, and what it's docked into is the swivel, and it's already yelling at me. So I'm going to set it down here so it's a little bit easier to see. But what it's going to do is, what I have around my neck is an infrared tracking beacon and a wireless Bluetooth microphone, and a remote control. So there's a button on the side, a big red button, just like your VCR, that lets me start and stop a recording. And as long as I have it on, and these two are synced, and we set all that up in advance. So basically, as long as I turn everything on and all the lights are green, everything is synced, and you can see it's following me around as I walk around. This allows instructors to set up the swivel on their own in class. This is purely do-it-yourself. It takes 15 minutes of training and 5 minutes of setup. I don't know if any of you were here when I set it up right when we first got here. It's literally taking the base, as long as everything is charged, taking the base out, docking the iPad in it. There's one single cable to plug in. You turn it on, it all talks to each other, and it's ready to go. Records in 720p HD with the front-facing camera. The reason we want to use the front-facing camera, you could turn it around and use the back camera, which is 1080p instead. Two reasons. One, 720p is fine for web video. You don't need, you're not showing Lord of the Rings if you're just making a lecture capture video. 720p HD is really good. But the best part about it is that an instructor can set it, was Ron Popeil set it and forget it. For Ronco, it's done. All I have to do now for the rest of my 5-hour class or 2.5-hour class is start and stop the recording whenever I get to a lecture segment that I want to record. Every time I start and stop the record, it makes a new clip. So I'm going to start it right now just by pressing the red button. You can probably see I've got red and green. Red means it's recording. Also on the front of the iPad, it's flashing red at me, and there's a counter that's counting up. And that's really all I have to do. Because it's facing me, I can see myself. I know if I spin around or I move too fast and I go out of frame, I'm going to see that. It's hard to do. It actually does a really good job following you. But if I run really fast, it will lose me. I can take a quick glance and see that. If the tilt is off, I can hold the center button in with the check mark, and if I can raise it up and down remotely, so if I see my head's getting cut off, I can just hold that in and tilt it until it gets to where I want it to be. The idea is the instructor gets trained by us. They borrow it whenever they want to borrow it. They come as a kit. You get the iPad and the swivel base. They check it out. They take it to their class. They record whatever they want to record. They bring it back to us. We put it into Kaltura for them, tie it to their Blackboard account. We will get to a point where they will just upload it wirelessly right from the device. They'll log into Blackboard and upload it. Right now, we're handling that part for them, but we're going to be getting to there where we are out of the equation completely. So this is not something, I don't bring this into nonlinear editing. I don't put opens and close and lower thirds on it. I don't edit it. This is purely something an instructor can do, but they can make their own perfect, crystal clear audio, HD video, and it requires nothing from us. Like I said, right now we are handling the upload into Blackboard for them, but we're going to get to a point where we don't even have to do that part. And it's very easy, because all they do is bring it by my office or Drew's office, and we just upload it to log in for them. But right now we're doing that by plugging it into a computer. We're going to get to the point where that's all done with Wi-Fi. Once it's in the cloud, and for us that's Kaltura. That doesn't have to be. YouTube, Vimeo, any other cloud service, don't feel like you have to have Kaltura to do this. You could buy one of these things, and Mike and Eric talked about, well, you're starting at 15,000, 20,000, and it goes up from there. You can do this for under $700, complete with the 32 gig iPad mini and the base. This doesn't do what their product does. Just like they said, this is just another tool to have. This is a way to bang out some down and dirty lecture capture content. Sally, if any of you were at her culinary class that she talked about how she got a culinary class completely online, she borrowed this, took it home, and did a cooking demo. And we put it in her Blackboard course. Admittedly, we did jazz that one up a little bit with some graphics and some opens and music and things. But the idea is, I'm going to show you instructors take it into a classroom and do lectures. You don't have to do that. You can take it home. You can take it to the zoo with you. You can take it to a museum. If you don't mind setting up in the middle of an art exhibit and demoing something, but there's ideas out there. And yeah, we're using Kaltura and it works great with that. But you don't have to. YouTube, Vimeo, Google Drive, Dropbox, any of those things. The videos can go anywhere after here. They live on the iPad until you put them somewhere else. This is what it looks like in the faculty repository. This is in Kaltura, but we upload the videos and they'll be able to be shared here with all the faculty. And that's what it looks like. This is a still from a swivel video. This is Dr. Greg Warren doing a presentation on core competencies. He does this completely on his own. He got trained, he borrows these, he takes them into class with him, he starts to record when he gets to a segment that he wants to make a lecturette out of. We encourage people very much, don't record your 5-hour class. Come in, take attendance, let people complain about their homework, do whatever you're gonna do, and then when you start your topic, like, chances are, even in a long class, you're gonna talk for 15, 20 minutes before you get into something else that maybe it doesn't make sense for a video. So you do have to think a little bit about, what do I want to have a video of that lives? Well, lecture capture system, you're gonna start at a considerable amount of money. We are looking at lecture capture as well. It's not a replacement for lecture capture, it's something else. Right now, we just charge instructors after you do this. I mean, you can see the PowerPoints in the video if you're standing there. Attach it right below it. When you put it in Blackboard, attach your PowerPoint. Because sometimes they have other handouts that they give out in class, just put them right below it. Certainly, lecture capture is not an option. We are going to be getting involved with Capture Space, which is a lecture capture product that Kaltura has been rolling out. In the past, they experimented with Tegrity. They weren't happy with it. And lecture capture, you start getting into more and more money, and there are downsides with lecture capture. One of the great things about this is that I can walk all the way around the room. I can even do a 360, go all the way to the back of the room, and it'll keep following me as long as they can see this. And that's something you can't get with lecture capture. So for all the people who weren't able to see it earlier, now you can see what it looks like from this side. And it's still following me. It's finally, I think it's behind your shoulder, so I think it lost me at this point. But it will do a full 360 as long as it can see you. And that's something you lose where we tried Tegrity, where you've got that fixed camera. And one of the things, if I remember right, that people didn't like about it was lecture capture. You can see the computer is great, but then you have this tiny little camera and it's a side shot. You got to stay by the podium. So it's tough to get something without going full robotic lecture capture that really fills all the needs, and full robotic lecture capture to wire a smart room, you're in the hundreds of thousands of dollars by that point. There are people that do it. MIT does it. They have little deeper pockets that do it.
Yeah, so I can actually speak to that too, guys, because we're interested in this. I'd never heard it until Russ sent us his presentation, and now I'm curious about this. We do lecture capture at the sales and as one of our tools, and we had the same issue. We had the stationary webcam, which we can kind of angle it towards the front of the room, but we've run into issues where they have PowerPoints, we get them great, and then if they write something on the board, we don't have that angle. Short of running a USB extension, having a camera sitting in the middle of the classroom, we don't have the angle to get on the whiteboard. So that's one thing that we're looking into as well.
Yeah, we actually have the opportunity through an external device to bring cameras into our lecture capture. We use Tegrity, but the students and instructors are really interested in showing the PowerPoints provided in most cases. If it was more like a psychology class, this would be.
Yeah, oddly, like I said, with Tegrity, we had the opposite complaint.
Yeah.
They loved, of course, the computer screen, the PowerPoints. They loved having that part. The instructors hated being stuck in one spot because that's where the microphone was, that's where the camera was. Because we don't have the people to deploy to have a live camera operator to move cameras around and run live mics. So it seems like there's always a trade-off somewhere there. I mean, I'm a big proponent that audio is even more important than video. People will forgive bad audio. They will not forgive bad video. They won't forgive bad audio. And I think we've all had that experience of you call your AV services, they stick a camera in the back of the room, VHS camera, and the audio is hollow. You can't really hear anything. Oh, here's the air conditioner running, and it's really tough to watch that. So one of the things we get out of this is that it sounds great and it looks really good. It does fail a little bit on getting the full screen PowerPoints unless we edit those in post-production, which we do on occasion. But generally what we have found the instructor, we really want this to be a complete do-it-yourself function. What we do find the instructor doing is, again, just attaching PowerPoints, and that has worked really well in response. This doesn't solve everything, it just solves a lot of things for our use cases. Was there, I think she had one back there.
In your first session, in Blackboard, you have the WU tab that lists your videos.
Mm-hmm.
Are you storing that in the Blackboard community content area?
No, all of our videos are stored in Kaltura,
Kaltura.
which is, it's integrated with Blackboard, but it's technically an entire separate cloud-based server. We are not using any social aspect of communities right now. We're using orgs, but all of the social sharing aspects we have turned off while some issues get worked out between our networking team and Blackboard. They're working on some
You also have
abstraction.
a product where you can just dump your
Mhm.
files, so you don't have that.
No, you know, the Kaltura content is tied to us, and then we can share certain things via our public web portal. But yeah, we're not sharing things amongst other Blackboard users at the moment. I'm not sure that we'll ever be doing that, but I know Explore does something like that where you can share modules with other Blackboard schools. We're not doing anything with that right now. I think she was next. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I just had a question about, maybe more for the video. What, you have other schools set up, so what do they have a microphone? How do they get the full experience, and how do the students in the classroom with the teacher hear those, or are they just on like a video with a,
Yeah,
is that a problem where you can't hear the students? It seem to me those students at the other universities might not be as clearly participating as when you have your 3 schools within your own university.
Yeah, and actually, we've been changing the way we have it at our university, because we can't, we had trouble with one of our locations at actually Easton, one we just been updating, with not hearing those students as clearly, so we actually just went from tabletop mics to ceiling microphones, mainly because the tabletop mics were push button mics, and the problem was either a student would forget to push it, or they would forget that it's on, and they'd be hitting folks against it, or you always have the person that's just sitting there, it's like kind of like tapping fingers, but they're doing it right next to the microphone, and they can't hear it in the room, but everyone on the far end is just hearing it, thud, thud, thud. But for the students, the ones in Lehigh, we prefer to have a technician in the room with them, just kind of for a back channel if for some reason something goes down on our end, there's at least a technician there to say, okay, the sales is working on it, we're going to reconnect. Or on the other side, if their camera needs to be adjusted or we can't hear their audio, it's just some way for us to communicate with some technician in the room to say, hey,
They need to have a technician in there, so they need to have an actual classroom or space where this is happening.
Yeah,
Plus
again,
somebody to help work.
yeah, that's preferable. I mean, now in Lafayette, they don't have a person in the room, but they at least will train 1 or 2 of the students on how to use their remote control and just basic functions like muting or unmuting or turning volume up and down. Now the system that they have at Lehigh is actually kind of one of the like all-inclusive systems, but they do have a little pod microphone. It's a Polycom, but it has a little mute button on it, and they basically just put that out. It's tethered to the unit, and that's the students just have it sitting in front of them. And we hear them just as clearly as any of the students in the room. We actually have to turn down the audio sometimes.
And they're able to see the home campus.
Yep, yeah, and actually, I forgot to mention that, not a picture, because we're on the near end here. What they're seeing is they see one shot, everyone has 2 screens, one shot is the professor, and the second shot is her full screen PowerPoint. We send them digitally over data connection. So they do see her on one screen and then the PowerPoint on the other. And we can also interchange what views they're seeing from our end. But same thing, we have a technician in the room all the time, and we're changing what feed is being sent and what view they're seeing.
And among our campuses, they get the full thing with like the professor's content, and the other locations. So, and you should be able to hear and see everybody, as well at the far locations as the ones that are right there. That's the idea.
Yeah, and again, there are limitations if the mics aren't in the right location, but we at least, before we launch something like this, we worked with them, for several months, just making sure that things were working properly, and that's actually we saw a network issue that they had to actually move the building, and we ended up loaning them a boat week that we have in the meantime, so they had everything re-cabled, but yeah, there's definitely obstacles.
Another practical thing I don't know if you mentioned too is one of the things we've tried to work on from feedback from the faculty is making all the video conferencing locations as consistent as possible, so that when a faculty member goes to each location, it operates exactly the same, the podium is the same, the controls are the same, so when they rotate, they're not confused. So,
Do you have any feedback
from the students about their experience? So the far side students, do you have any data on how they're doing or how satisfied they are with it?
Yeah, we do send out, we don't, but the professor for the Italian class, she'll send out a survey, just asking the students, not just on, the classroom material, but then also on technology. We're able to see me all the time, you're able to hear me, would you, take this class again, would you recommend, a video conference or distance learning class to, a friend? Kind of typical questions that you see on the survey. Now, we're definitely getting better, but at first we did have hiccups in the system. We had pixelation every now and then. Her audio would cut out on their end, and as we worked through it, it took about a semester and a half or so to just get rid of all the issues. But then it was kind of rewatching. Surveys went from I would never take this kind of class again to that they really liked it and wish there were more classes offered like this, and they could have a wider variety of courses offered at their school rather than seeing them offered at quote unquote sister school in the area that they have to travel to.
One thing related to that we found, we were meeting, I think with our business program that has some of their classes taught this way, was that the students weren't always clear that this was what they were signing up for. So that was really a no-no, because it just, they have to know that they're going into the video conferencing class. And, like a lot of registration systems, it was probably in like the column all the way over on the right in small print, this is a video conference class. So somebody didn't know what they were getting into, and they're dissatisfied. So we made it a priority to make sure that everybody that's signing up for this class knows that this is the type of class that it is, and that in and of itself should improve, I think, the satisfaction of the students.
Yeah, just making them aware that instead of coming into that class, you see teacher up on the screen and you think, what's this? And then we had that happen a couple classes, but they've made it a lot more noticeable now. So I think it's like enrolled next to the course now that it is a simulcast like this thing.
Does anybody have any cool video projects they're doing that they just want to briefly mention, or kind of a neat application, whether it's a expensive thing or an inexpensive thing, or anything like that?
I did have a question. I was just wondering, you said you were working on instructors being able to upload videos versus you having to do it manually. Would that be done through the iPad?
Yes, it would be done right through the iPad via Wi-Fi. I can do it now. We're not ready with the authentication yet for the student body and instructor body to be able to do it. We're getting closer to that. This is one of those cases where we, in EdTech and Online Learning, we need to work with IT, we need to work with networking. We're dealing with getting our ADFS authentication set up correctly, if you're familiar with that. We don't have single sign-on, but Active Directory Federated Services. Is that what that stands for? So we are jointly, the three departments will be working on having authentication so they're able to log in and upload right via Wi-Fi, just like if you were doing your one-click YouTube upload, you'll be able to do a little one-click upload right to their Kaltura account. The reason we need a little more time to bring in networking and IT is because it's important that they have the exact same login they use for Blackboard. So that when you go into My Media in Kaltura, there's videos in any location associated with Kaltura. So we're getting to there. And it's not a huge burden for us right now. We still only have 5 of these things to spread around. So it's not a big burden right now. And if they could still, if for some reason we never get there and it never happens, you plug it into the computer with the USB cable and you can upload that there for the desktop. So it wouldn't be a deal breaker if they had it without it.
I was just curious. That would be a nice.
Yeah, it'll be fantastic once we get that work. That's one of those just like Mike said. There's a lot of departments that need to be involved in those sort of things.
How do you address production quality concerns, most notably professors who at home are doing self-recordings and sit at their kitchen table with dirty dishes in the background and things like that?
There's a couple of things. We do provide in our training materials an infographic called How Not to Look Ugly on a Webcam that asks them to, think about, is the hamper full of dirty clothes? Is the bathroom door open with the toilet, somebody sitting on it behind you? We try to keep it light, but we do need them to think about that because we also need them to think about things like FERPA. They're doing a screencast. We got to make sure they're not having the Grade Center open, that they don't have IM pop-ups coming into their screencast. So there's a whole gamut of things we need to help them with. Also, because we're using Kaltura in that centralized location, we're able to vet things as they come through. That's why we have, if you remember from my earlier presentation, actively being involved is really important. And we do try to prep them for what it means to be recording yourself and what it means to be recording your desktop. Are things gonna happen? Probably, but the average student is probably gonna laugh it off too. The nice thing about this is that even if there was something really strange with the audio, at least it sounds good. So that's a nice plus. That if something really bizarre was going on with them at home, that actually wouldn't happen so much with this product, which they tend to use more in class. But the webcam recording happens everywhere. It happens in your bedroom, in their home office. So eventually something horrible is going to happen, and hopefully we'll all be able to laugh it off. But it will happen eventually.
I think that's one of our biggest challenges because we have a lot of SMEs recording their own video via webcam, and if nothing bad has happened, but it could be a lot better. Sitting in a classroom with ceiling tiles missing out of it just looks amateur.
It looks that
So
way
trying to get
you,
them
and it looks
to
that way to
understand.
me. I mean, my background's in broadcast television.
Right.
To a student, they're just so happy to see video instead of a journal article, instead of reading textbook pages, instead of writing yet another reflection paper. They don't care about that on the student side. We care about it as instructors, especially if you're somebody involved in production and we want everything to look and sound perfect. Students just want video. They really do. Don't forget, they're in that Skype world. They're in the FaceTime culture all the time. Like, especially if you're dealing with traditional age students, that's what they're used to and that's what they want. They're just so happy to have any kind of interaction. They're much more forgiving than we probably think they are. They're just giving us the evil eye, so I think we're not.
Yes, Luce. Thank you very much, guys. We're having a closing section in room 115. If you could all stop over there. We're going to have prize drawings and a couple of last minute announcements. Yes.
Just your
Swivel.